set goals and meditate or do something spiritual and read, and then how it set them up for a much more successful day. And so I was instantly intrigued with this. I was like, I want what all of them are drinking. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Ground Up. This is something that I've been wanting to start for a really long time. I think I planted the seed of starting a podcast probably 4 years ago, which sounds about right in line with how long it takes me to start actually manifesting something that I wanted to do. With anything in my life that I've achieved, I've always kind of planted the seed way before and then sat on it and nothing happened for a while. And then I set some intentions and goals and they eventually come to fruition. So this is a literal example of, starting something that I set my mind to. And so now you're a part of it, and thank you for listening. This is Ground Up. And the first thing I want to talk about today, I actually did a poll on my Instagram story asking you guys kind of what you even wanted me to talk about if I were to start a podcast. And most of the things were about how I started in my career with acting, how I started Magic, my business. And there were other things like how to gain confidence, how do you stay motivated and consistent, and how do you set intentions, and what does gratitude mean, and spirituality and manifestations. These are all things that I talk about often. So that's probably why those are the topics that people wanted me to dive deeper into. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here in every episode. And today I wanted to talk about my career journey from the ground up with acting as well as entrepreneurship. It's been a long one, and I think that there's a lot to talk about. So it felt appropriate to start there. And you can get to know more about me along the way as well. So I think we'll just dive right into how I started my acting journey and career. Obviously, it didn't come out of nowhere. Behind every overnight success is 10 years of hard work. For me, it was probably like 15 years of hard work. So here we are. I'm working as an actress, and that was my dream since I was 6 years old. And I never knew how to get into it. And my mother was never a stage mom. I grew up in Orange County, which is only, an hour and a half from Los Angeles. But she wasn't about to drive up 2 hours in traffic just to sit with me for a 5-minute audition. Totally understandable. I love her. She's very supportive. But just she didn't want to do that. So I got to actually start pursuing my career when I turned 16 and got a car and was kind of able to take matters into my own hands. One of the first things I did is I knew that I needed something called headshots and resumes and a reel. And these are just things that I learned from Google because I had truly no idea where to start. Again, I had no adult guidance. I just had this burning desire inside of me to want to be Selena Gomez, quite literally. So I was like, I got to start somewhere. And Google said that I need to, get an agent and a manager. And in order to do that, I need headshots and resumes and reels. And it can be super overwhelming because you don't have any of those things. You don't have anything to write on a resume. You don't have any footage of you in a reel. What even is a reel? I had to Google, what is a demo reel? Google was truly my best friend, and YouTube. That's how I learned everything you'll hear from acting, also with starting my business in Magic. Everything I learned on YouTube and Google. It doesn't mean that I didn't have days where I was feeling unmotivated and like I couldn't come up with anything in my head to do next, or I felt so overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that I had to do. That's always going to happen, and that definitely happened within my acting and starting my business. But again, you have to start somewhere, and in this case, it was truly from the ground up. So I got some terrible headshots done by a family friend, and then I recorded myself doing a commercial, and then I just went on IMDb Pro, which is this website where a lot of managers and agents and production companies and anyone in the entertainment industry is listed on IMDb Pro. You have to pay for it yearly, but it was definitely a good investment because you have access to all of these emails and information of people that I knew I needed to get in touch with. So I started sending that information out via, at the time it was in the mail. and then eventually emails. But that's how I started, is just sending out my information to agents and managers and really getting no responses because I had no content that was good. But again, I was getting those failures out of the way. I was learning, I was at least taking action on what I knew I wanted to do. And when you're that age too, I felt like I had this less fear than I would in this moment of failure and being denied. But that was my way of, just starting and getting myself out there. So slowly but surely, I started getting some feedback from agents and managers that wasn't always good, but they weren't terrible. And it was kind of the beginning of my journey into understanding the odds of this industry and the failure that I was about to embark on. But I had this blind confidence, which I think that was super helpful for me at the time. So eventually I got signed with my first manager and was enrolled in acting class. So I'm putting energy into what I want to be doing, right? I'm meeting other actors. I'm getting coached by an acting teacher, and I'm meeting with agents and managers. And none of this came like seamlessly or easy. There was 100% of the time where I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. But at least I'm immersing myself in what I know that I wanted to be doing. I wasn't just sitting back and thinking that everything was going to happen for me. I knew that that wasn't the case. Every day I was taking some sort of action that could get me towards my goal, whether that was sending an email or talking to a friend or going to an acting class or reading an audition online by myself in my house. There was always something. And of course, I had a job at a restaurant because I moved to LA with $2,000, which lasted me approximately 25 days. And with all the parking tickets that I got and rent and food, again, it's your first time on your own. You don't even know half the costs that are about to come at you, but this is how you learn in life. And that has to do with everything. That has to do with moving out on your own, starting a new venture like acting or school or whatever career that you want to get into. You have to start and take action and fail, and eventually you will get to success. And that's where consistency comes from. And I think that's one thing that I did when I was 20 is stay consistent with what I wanted to achieve, which was always become a working actor. And I think another thing that I did was create vision boards and have a strong intention of exactly what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to be on a TV show. It was like specific. At the time, I wanted to be on Pretty Little Liars and Vampire Diaries, but if you look at that, that is CW and Freeform, which is like a very specific show that I wanted to be on. And so the first show I booked was on, those shows were no longer even on the air by the time I started working. But the first show I booked was on Freeform, which is the same network that Pretty Little Liars was on. And I put on my vision board a Freeform logo. I had no other logo, not one of, I didn't have a Netflix logo, a CW logo, just Freeform. And this was my 2017 vision board. And the first show I booked, which was in 2018 when I was 23, was a Freeform show. And I think that has to do with the manifesting and the energy that I put into being specific about what I wanted with myself, with the universe, with agents and managers that I would talk to. I would say, hey, this is what I can see myself on. So then we all had the same vision. And so it was like being put out there constantly. And in order to get to that vision, I guess I should backtrack, is you have to create time and space with you and yourself so you can get straight with what you want. And I think that's something that we don't do often enough, is create time every single day to sit down with yourself, even just for 5 or 10 minutes, and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, what do you want to accomplish this week, today, this month, this year, in 5 years, in 10 years? Specificity is so important because that's how we don't go through the motions. And then all of a sudden 5-10 years goes by and you're like, wait, what just happened? I'm doing the same exact thing. What do they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So in order to create that change, and change is constant. Change just means create change, meaning, oh, I booked a show, or create change, meaning, oh, I got the job at the law firm. That's change. Change is constant. That's the only constant in life. So in order to not have the same thing go over and over and over again is to get specific with yourself and your peers and your family even on what goals you want to accomplish. In my mind, that's the only way to make them come to fruition. So that is one thing now looking back and even just talking it out loud right now is that I kind of always had this specific vision of exactly what I wanted, and I put it on a vision board so that every single day I could see it, and my subconscious mind was being submerged with what my goals were in life. And it's not just, a picture of an expensive car. However, I did have my Jeep on there, which I now have. But there's also small goals on that vision board that will help me get to the big goal. So in order to get the Jeep, that would be, how do I get there? Okay, well, a Jeep costs money. So I need to make money. How am I going to make money? Well, I'm going to start by working at a restaurant to pay for myself and my dreams, which is to be an actor, pay for acting class. And so it's like, okay, acting class is on the vision board. How do we get there? That's $300 a month. How am I going to get that? Okay, I have to take these small jobs to make this much money so I can be in the acting class that will hopefully get me the agent, that will hopefully get me the job. It's step by step by step. If you want to be a nurse, I have a lot of nurses in my family that had to go through a lot of schooling and work at the specific office that they wanted to work at. How do you get there? You set the goal to, okay, I want to go to this school. I want to finish these courses. And then I have to get through this many tests. And how am I going to do that? Okay, I got to stay healthy and I got to stay on my grind. And I have to wake up at this time. It's about setting these small goals that eventually will lead into the bigger goal. So backtracking to, I moved to LA and I get my first manager and off to the races with auditioning a lot. I think I had about, not exaggerating, I think I counted once, around 300 auditions before I booked my first show. Because I started auditioning at around 17 and I booked my first show at 23. So that's 6 years of auditioning, which is easily 300 auditions. What helped me keep going throughout all of that is, again, eye on the vision and checking in with myself, making sure that I still had passion for this, that I still loved the process. And you have to truly love the process as much as you love the actual goal, because I think there's a scientific study that says it takes about 10 years to truly be successful at anything. Acting, definitely. That's like a industry standard. It's like 10 years before you are actually getting steady. And a lot of the times a lot longer than that. But with anything, 10,000 hours with sports, you put in 10,000 hours of practice, you get to be Kobe Bryant. That's what they say. So with that being said, you got to start failing like yesterday. So then you can start those hours and start those reps and start that practicing to get to where you want to go. And I think so many times we can get this analysis paralysis where we're just not doing anything at all because we're so overwhelmed with how much we have in front of us. And I totally get it. I get analysis paralysis all the time. What I have to do is, again, what I talked about earlier, is breaking down those big goals into smaller steps. I personally like to write it down on paper. I feel like the energy from pen to paper is super powerful for me. I can also, it's tangible. I could see it. I could check it off once I get it done, which tells my brain, which gives my brain dopamine. Oh, I finished this. Good job. And it helps me get on to the next task. So I feel like it's super beneficial. You get to check things off. You can see everything you have to do, and you could see the steps that are small and you could see the steps that are big. It's right there on the piece of paper. So that's something that helps me get out of something like analysis paralysis, where I feel like I have so much to do that I can't handle any of it. With a lot of no's and a lot of tears, I used to cry after every audition. This is a fun fact that I don't know if I've told anyone. I am not kidding. Every single audition, I would cry when I got to my car. And I think looking back, what it was the amount of adrenaline that I had for that audition. You prep, you drive there, you walk into the casting office, you sit in the waiting room, your nerves, everything. You go in, you finally do your audition, which takes about 60 seconds. And then you, in my experience, often do it one time. And they're like, all right, thank you so much. And I think what it was just the chemicals in my brain quite literally crashing. And so I would cry every time. So with a lot of tears and a lot of no's, I finally booked my first show. It kind of I just kept going from there and, kept staying consistent and passionate about the process, because the process does not stop there. The first show I booked was something called a recurring guest star. So I still didn't have my dream goal of being what's called a series regular on a TV show, which pretty much means that you are one of the top cast. So you're in every episode, you're part of the main storyline. And that was my dream goal from the beginning. So although I was so excited, I knew that there was more to get to, which is good because it keeps you going and it makes you have purpose. Again, just not being stagnant and being like, okay, I got it, now I'm good. No, there's always more that you want to achieve. And that could be a blessing and a curse, right? You don't want to have accomplished something great and then be not grateful for it or not excited about it or just feeling like you already want the next thing. But there is an element of being like, okay, great. Now what is the bigger goal in this? And writing that down and figuring out the steps to get there. While I was filming this first show, I was in another country, Vancouver, Canada, and I was there and I was so excited, but I was super lonely because I was by myself in a hotel room for most of the days. And this was 2018. And so this is how I got into health and wellness. This was the birth of that journey for me. And I fell in love with it and it helped me, right? Because I was focusing on myself and figuring out my feelings and why was I feeling lonely and what's the meaning of life and all the good things that happen in your early 20s. And within this will eventually birth my company, Magic. As I was trying to find motivation within these days of being alone, I found myself gravitating towards books and going on walks and listening to podcasts. And so within all of this, one thing I found super interesting while reading books from Gabby Bernstein and Brendon Burchard and Mel Robbins to Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle, these spiritual people mixed with these high performers, I found that they all had one thing in common, which was a morning routine. All of them. They talked about how they would wake up in the morning and they would have a good hour to themselves and they would set goals and meditate or do something spiritual and read, and then how it set them up for a much more successful day. And so I was instantly intrigued with this. I was like, I want what all of them are drinking because they're all successful in their own right. They're successful in their careers. They're mindful. They seem grounded. And so I started trying all these different morning routines while I was going to work on set, while I was by myself, when I would fly home back to LA. And I loved it. I felt rejuvenated. I felt motivated. And my friends were asking me like, what are you doing that is making you so happy and confident? And how are you booking things? And what ball has been rolling? What have you been doing differently? And I started thinking, and I'm like, I don't know. When it's yourself, it feels seamless. But I realized that I'm like, wait, I have a morning routine for the past 2 months, like a solid one. And then I realized that I created my own morning routine after reading all these books and listening to all these podcasts and motivational speakers. And it involved 5 main things, which were as followed. I would meditate. I would state affirmations. I would state 3 things I'm grateful for. I would set 3 intentions, and then I would cap it off with a nice hot cup of coffee. And that was my morning routine. And I remember just feeling so happy and, again, motivated, inspired, I think is a really good word, and grounded. I felt super grounded throughout my days. And so when my friends would ask, I would go, oh, I'm doing this morning routine. And within these days, I started to develop MAGIC, which is an acronym for that: meditation, affirmations, gratitude, intentions, and coffee. And how that came to be was I was just kind of truly sitting there writing down the letters. And I thought, okay, MAGI is all I had in the beginning, Maggie. So I called a girlfriend of mine and I'm like, I came up with a brilliant morning routine. It's called Maggie. You're going to love it. Everyone already loves it. I've been telling friends about it. And she's like, aren't you obsessed with coffee? Like, you should cap it off with some coffee magic. And I was like, you are a genius, Levin. Thank you. And I just kind of started doing magic by myself on a piece of paper. And again, I started telling friends. I created an Instagram for it. So this is the ground up story of MAGIC, is getting to that point where I needed something in my life that could help me feel consistent and grounded and motivated. And I stumbled upon an idea of a morning routine. And then it stumbled into this acronym, which then I told friends about it and they loved it. And I had always had this desire, like I talked about in the beginning of the podcast, of planting these seeds, where on my 2018 vision board, I wrote start a business in sticker letters, a bunch of different colored stickers, start a business. So I knew that I wanted to start a business, had no idea what it was. At the time, I was super into baking, so I thought that I would start like a baking company. Wasn't that. So I started to do MAGIC, and then I started this in 2019 in around August is when I came up with the concept of MAGIC. And I didn't launch until 11/11/2020. So that time is over a year until it actually came into fruition. So what happened was I created the Instagram for it. I didn't feel overwhelmed. I just kind of was like, here's a fun idea. Let's see what we can do. Then within that Instagram, somebody stumbled upon it and she made a TikTok about Magic Mornings, my company that I didn't know was a company yet. And she was just kind of explaining how much it helped her in her life. And she described magic, meditation, affirmations, gratitude, intentions, and coffee, but she didn't shout my brand out. And so I was like, and it went viral on TikTok. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is mine. This is my baby. I have to, trademark it. So that night, after seeing that TikTok, I went on LegalZoom and I trademarked the company. And this happened in March of 2020 when I trademarked it. So I had the Instagram for about 6 months before that. I trademarked it, and then it kind of lit a fire under my ass to really get MAGIC off the ground. And again, I had the desire to start a business. How did I know that I had a desire to start a business? I took out 2 hours of my time to create a vision board 2 years prior. That even gave me the space to let the universe come to my head and say, while I'm creating my vision board, oh, why do I want to put stickers on my vision board and say start a business? I don't know, but let's just write it and let's see where that takes me. But because that seed was planted in my brain, once the idea came to me, I was able to grasp it, sit on it for a little, and then go, wait, you've been kind of wanting to start a business. Is this it? Yeah, it is. Let's do it. So then, of course, the pandemic happened. And so I did have a lot of time. And that was when I was really using a morning routine and when people really needed a morning routine and needed that structure in their life. So I started Magic Mornings. And again, Google and YouTube was my absolute best friend. I literally typed into YouTube how to start a journal company. And there's YouTube videos about it. These girls making videos of, okay, this is the company that I used. Here's the different types of paper. Do you want spiral bound? Do you want, and I started asking friends. I had focus groups at my house, not during COVID. this was in 2019 when I had that 6 months of like kind of playing with the brand, starting the Instagram. I had yet to trademark it. And I had focus groups at my house and girls telling me like, I don't like to do 1, 2, 3 under meditation. Just put lines. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Kind of talking it out. And there's no pressure within this. It's just strictly flushing out an idea with friends. And you would be so surprised at how many people want to help you and be there for you and be a part of it. People like being a part of something. If you called 5 of your friends tonight and you were like, hey, I've had this idea for a while. Do you guys have time on Sunday to come over and flush this idea out with me? Guarantee 9 out of 10 times they will say, yeah, I'm there. You mind getting some snacks from Trader Joe's? And you're like, hell yeah, I will. Okay, great. I'll see you. What time? 2:00, just for a couple hours. Great. Guess what? Everyone gets to talk and hang out. And then you're creating energy around this idea that you have. You know, all of a sudden you're going to stumble upon a podcast that is about this topic that you want to start. You're putting it into the universe. Everything is energy. You're going to attract what you put out there. So that's your homework, is get some friends together and talk about an idea that you've had, whether that's starting a business or whether that's something completely different, like starting a book club, or, hey, I've really been wanting to learn how to bake cupcakes. Do you guys want to come over? I really want to do this, and I've been saying it for 6 months, but I haven't done it. Let's set an hour to bake. They're going to say, hell yeah. So after getting my friends together and continuing to flesh out the idea of magic, it was pretty much born into a tangible journal. There was a lot of, mind you, I was doing magic throughout this, right? Because magic is an actual method that you do every single morning. It was my morning routine. So within this, every single morning, I'm setting goals. I'm setting intentions. I'm stating my gratitude. I'm affirming myself. The A in magic is affirmations. So every morning, I'm stating 3 different affirmations. And 99% of the time, I'm stating the same thing every day, which is, I am creative. I am a boss-ass bitch. I own $1 million business. I am the lead in a TV show. Because at the time, I have yet to book my dream of being a series regular at this point. I'm still completely hustling in acting, trying to make a living that way. So I'm writing things about acting, entrepreneurship. I'm stating gratitude, setting intentions every single morning. By doing that every day, it's just a constant reminder of like what I want magic to become. Again, it is now coming into fruition because I am speaking about it every single morning, even if that's just with myself and with the universe. So eventually, after a lot of research and YouTubing and scribbling in journals and chatting with friends, I turn it into a notebook. You know, a lot of people ask me, how did you start magic? And I could just say, well, I Googled 100 printing companies until I found the right one. I did do that. That is one step to it. But I think the main thing is that you have to create time and space for yourself to flesh out the ideas and flesh out what you want. Don't underestimate the power of silence and sitting with yourself and allowing, I keep saying the universe, God, Mother Nature, so powerful to come into you and say, oh, here's what you got to do. Here's an idea. You don't have to constantly be doing things. You don't have to be scrolling on Instagram. In fact, don't scroll on Instagram for a little bit. I understand that Instagram can be inspiring and that you can save videos, but how often have you saved a video on Instagram and gone back and looked at that video? Not often, for me at least. So a lot of times when something happens with you, it happens with a lot of other people. So I'm guessing that you have a bunch of saved folders on your Instagram, but how often are you going back and being like, oh yeah, let me see what these facts are? I would suggest sitting in silence and then having things come to you. Then after like having a stream of conscious and writing all of these things out. And by sitting in silence, it's meditation. It's the M in magic. It's a form of meditation. You can do guided and then feel inspired after that. A guided meditation from YouTube, or there's tons of apps. The Calm app, the Cacti Wellness app is one of my favorites. These are all ways to get inspired. When people ask me, how do you stay inspired? I sit in silence every single morning and do magic and have ideas come to me that I then take action on later on. And you're not always going to take action on these things. Again, sometimes they sit. I said I wanted to start a podcast 3 years ago. Here we are, starting day one. You have to start somewhere. I was so nervous to begin today. I am not special. You and I are no different. The only difference is that I was scared and I still took action on it. My heart was beating out of my chest when I sat here to start talking to you guys by myself. But it's still scary, but I want to start failing now at this podcast thing so that hopefully in 5 years I can have a podcast that is going and that, I'm really enjoying doing. Or maybe I learn something from it and I take, and then I start my next endeavor that's going to help. You're not going to take action on something and regret it, right? You're not going to go to the gym and then regret it after. You're not going to meditate and then regret it. You're not going to drink greens and take vitamins and then be like, really wish I didn't do that. No, you're going to feel better always. It's just a matter of taking that actionable step. I know Mel Robbins has a technique where she does the count backwards from 5, which I've used a lot and it's really helped, which is pretty much, let's say you're laying in bed and you want to wake up earlier, your alarm goes off. You just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. My feet are going to touch the ground. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You got it. You just do that next thing that you're going to do. It kind of resets your brain into like, okay, I'm going to do this one thing when I get to 1, no matter what. And if you do it, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But again, trying these different things that help you take action on what you want to get accomplished in life, your dreams, your purpose. What is that for you? The first step is sitting down quietly and figuring that out within yourself. No one else is going to tell you. Instagram's not going to tell you. Your friends aren't going to tell you. Your therapist is not going to tell you. It's all within you already. You have all the power inside you to get exactly what you want to get done. And guess what? You already know deep inside what you want. It's in there. It exists. It lives. Your intuition is so strong. You just have to listen to it. We just have to listen to it. I have to listen to it. But we are raised in a society that when you hear that thing in your body that goes, no, this is what you want to do. It goes, oh, wait, no, I'm scared. That's not the right thing. My mom would not approve of that. My friends would make fun of me. And then all these thoughts get in the way. Totally normal. It's just a matter of catching it, taking control of what you can do, which is be more mindful and listen to your body. It sounds simple. I think for me, it was just a matter of actually doing it every single day. And that's why I created the Magic Journal, because of how powerful it was for me every single day and how I saw it was changing my friend's life and the messages I was getting on Instagram about how it was helping them so much. When people ask me how I kept going with magic, how I turned it into the brand that it is today, is that it was just helping people and it helped me. So that is why I keep going. And I'm in year 2 of my business, and I am the first one to tell you that we are not thriving, right? Every day is me just moving forward and, okay, how can I progress my business today? What can I do? Oh, I need to figure out some new social media graphics, or I need to talk to the community, see what they want. There is no part of this where I'm like, I know exactly what I'm doing every single day. No, it is quite the opposite. I have major imposter syndrome, which we can talk about on a full other episode. I would love to dive into that. I have no problem with saying that I suffer from imposter syndrome. And by suffering, I mean that it can take away from me taking action because I don't feel like I'm worthy of starting a podcast or creating a business. Again, there's nothing special about me. You have everything that I do, and I have everything that Natalie Portman has, or whoever I look up to, or if I look up to you, I have everything that you have as well, right? It's just a matter of believing it, and the way to do that is to affirm yourself every single day, which is also in magic. Even talking it out now, just something that has helped me tremendously, is doing that every single day. And the consistency that I've had within that, I feel, has been the success that I've had over the years is going back to myself, going back to the mindfulness, staying healthy. And of course, there's times where I'm not doing magic, but guess what? I can feel it when I'm not doing magic. I feel off. I feel like uninspired and unproductive. And we're all going to have times like that. Life comes in seasons. There's seasons where I feel really on. A lot of the times it's the beginning of the year. Summer sometimes gets a little tricky for me. But once you have it in your practice and you've immersed yourself in the feeling, then you know that you can always come back to it. It's always there. It's just a matter of literally tapping back into it. But you have to start somewhere, and you have to start that routine and start setting those goals. It's just something that has truly changed my life and been so powerful. And so it's kind of meta, because it's the magic that helps me with the magic business that I created, and definitely has helped me with my career in acting, is setting goals daily. If someone asked me, one of the biggest questions I get on Instagram is like, how did you get into acting? I just explained, how I literally got into acting, right? It was just trial and error, consistency. But what has really helped me is when I started getting into my mindfulness practice over the last 5 years, because so many things in our day to day can get thrown at us, and it could make us spiral in a bad way. And if I can combat that in any way possible, I'm going to take control and do that. And for me, that's a morning routine. I like to say that starting without magic is starting at like a 0 every single morning, right? Starting with no morning routine, you're just at a neutral 0. You do magic, you get a +10. You start without magic, you get a 0. You go on to your day, you get to work, and then your boss is an asshole to you. Now, if you started at 0, you're at like a -3. Then you get in the car and then someone cuts you off. Now you're at like a -5. Oh, someone compliments you. You're at like a -3 again. Oh, and then, you didn't get the promotion. Now you're at a -10. With magic, you started at the +10. Your boss says something to you. Guess what? You already had your mindfulness that morning. You already meditated. Who cares? You start to not care about that little thing that person said, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And we all know this, but it's a matter of reminding yourself daily. So now you start with magic. You're at a +10 for your day. Someone says something rude. You're at an 8 or a 7. Someone cuts you off. At least you're at a 5. You're not at a -5. It's setting yourself up for success every single day. That has been the key to my motivation, success, productivity, inspiration. And it's been so much fun to share it with everyone. I feel like that is my purpose in life, is to share tools that I've used to help people reach their purpose and dreams in life, and to pursue your dream career and not listen to what other people have to say. But we have to get through that barrier of listening to what society has told us our entire life. We have to overcome that. And I believe the only way to do that is small habits every single day to set you up for success. Well, there we have it. That concludes for episode 1 of Ground Up with me, Natalee. I really hope that you guys got any good little nuggets out of that, and that you feel inspired today to take action on something that you've always wanted to start. Like I said, start failing yesterday. Get those no's out of the way, because it takes, with anything that you want to do, I feel like it takes like at least 20 no's before you can get to a good yes, whether you're applying for a job or you're sending out submissions or you're pitching your product. 20 is nice. I would say it takes more than that, but start getting those emails out there. Post that reel, post that video, pitch your product, text a friend, get someone on the phone and ask them about this idea that you have. I really hope that this inspires any of you in any way. And if it does, shoot me a DM, message me. Please rate this podcast. That's the only way that I can grow. So I really appreciate it. And I will see you next week. Bye.